Hello, I'm Wendy Brickman of Brickman Marketing, and welcome to the Brickman Banter Show. Today, as my very special guest, I'm delighted to have the very talented glass artist, Jill Casty. Welcome, Jill.
Hi.
So you have a beautiful style of art and glass. How did you get started on your career?
Well, I think it's kind of an interesting story because I started out working for Harper & Row, who was basically a New York company, but they opened an office in LA. They hired me. I became a book designer. In the beginning, it was college textbooks where I did the layout, chose the typefaces, chapter divisions, graphs, charts, all that went into the textbooks. And then I moved from the college textbooks down to lower grades, which require more illustrating and more variety, until I finally got to do children's books with tons of illustrations, hired illustrators, color. They were really, really fun. And then I worked for another publishing company where we did art books, coffee table books. There was a wedding book that was kind of fun to do. And from that, I went into commercial design, started doing catalogs, posters. I finally got to do a trade show for a company, which was a lot of fun. Designed the bags, the shopping bags, very graphic designy. Even made a little piece of artwork for him out of plexiglass. And eventually got to be in the shopping center market. It was during the shopping center heyday. Right. And I was at a show of my graphic design, and a person came up to me who said he had a shopping center in Sacramento, and he asked if I could do a piece of art, a piece of actual art for his center. So that was in Sacramento. I was in LA at the time. So I drove up to Sacramento, looked at the space, took pictures, took measurements. Then I came back. I made a model to scale of the space, and I designed a mobile for the center court skylight, which was 24 by 24. I wanted to do two choices for him. So I put a removable roof on the model, so I could do model A and model B. I took them both up to Sacramento to make a presentation. And very unusually, the guy liked both designs.
Yay.
Yay. And instead of buying one, he actually ended up buying three, one for the center court and one for each of two side halls. So I kind of divided the second design into two parts and made two smaller mobiles for him. So that was the beginning of my public art career. So we can start
Fabulous.
looking. Yeah.
Now you brought some pictures that we're going to share the screen. So let's do that right now. Hold on one sec. And we're going to go to, I think this is it. And there you are. Great.
There we go.
So first of all, we must say that you've just enhanced your website. So you'll see it on the screen. It's www.jillcastyart.com. So you can see some of these art pieces.
You can also get to it as www.jillcastyglassart.com.
Both of them.
Jill Casty Art, yes, it works both ways.
Excellent. All right, well, let's start with nature's cycle.
All right, now at some point I moved up north here to the Monterey area, and I got this job while we were living up here. It's for the city of Rancho Cucamonga, and in cooperation with Lewis Homes that was building a shopping center in that area. The area used to have orange and citrus groves all over it, and that's what inspired this work. The cycle of nature, how nature changes, how even properties change, sort of the cycle of time. And I wanted to make a work that was full of rhythm. They didn't want anything to physically move. So you can see I put a lot of rhythmical kinds of shapes, the aluminum shapes inside of the steel circles, to get a sense of movement without actually moving. So we built that here in Sand City and trucked it down, put it up with a lift. It's 24 feet high, did all the painting on site. I had, of course, all paints mixed here, but that was really that's a major piece of public art that still sits there on its site in Rancho Cucamonga.
I love the birds, and the orange evokes the orange groves I used to drive by throughout LA.
Right.
Beautiful. Okay, the next one's called Welcome Friends. Why is that?
This was done for the city of Whittier, and Whittier is a city of trees. That's what they celebrate, and the curved shapes sort of talk to the mountains that are hills that are in the area. And the arms are reaching out as the welcome is on the entry to the city. So that is the welcoming gesture. And now this is recently repainted. Originally it was in cooperation with the shopping center behind it that I did the color scheme. And then while I was living in Italy, they redid the shopping center and asked me to redo the colors. So I sent them samples. Anyway, I sent them samples and they repainted it and they made it look great. Yeah, and that was fun.
That's great. Okay, let's keep going. You're sweet enough to share so many. We want to see them all. Okay, there's them all.
Yeah, this is, I think, the most major job of the sort that I ever did. This is a huge shopping center in Washington, the state of Washington. This part is 900 feet long, and those hangings are made of plexiglass with negative space between the two halves. So it was a major undertaking to install. But throughout that whole center, I did some work in every hallway, and then there were little courts, so there were mobiles and the little courts here and there. Very fun project, massive.
Yeah, and the colors are just, one thing about your art is it's joyous and colorful, and it makes people feel good to look at it.
You
talk about that.
That's my objective, is to make people feel good. And in the shopping center industry, that's what you're being asked to do, to humanize the space, bring it down from the ceilings that are so high. But this is that first project, the Floor and Mall, which is a mobile and it does have moving parts. And it's just absolutely, it's still one of my favorite pieces.
I bet you children love that one too. It looks like a toy, a giant toy. It's beautiful. And this one?
So this is another one. This is in St. Louis. This was for the Westfield Company. And again, these spaces are just so huge, and they again wanted something to humanize it. And these are kind of, the colors are kind of stylish. I think you said when you first saw it that it could make people feel like shopping and
fabric,
clothes, fabric and stuff. So that's another major plexi project.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, wonderful material to work in. That's the material I loved best until I found glass.
All right.
At some point, doing that work became burdensome in a way, and I saw at the same time that there was a glass class being given at Monterey Peninsula College. I always loved glass. I always loved glass as an art form. And when I saw that the class was being offered, I took it, and was the beginning of learning how to fuse glass and make glass. And then fortuitously, my husband decided that we should go spend a year abroad. He's a writer, so he can write anywhere. And so I thought, well, I'll just work in glass. What an opportunity. So we lived in Italy, and I bought a kiln and some glass, and I started to play around with it. A learning process, learning curve.
Yeah.
But shortly after I started, I did make some pieces. I made some sculptures. And then we were in Pisa. We fell upon a maritime exhibit in Pisa where there was a show about the prohibition of the figurehead on the prow of ships, ancient sailing ships. Because so often they were partly naked women, they became outlawed at some point in time. The show itself was very interesting because every artist approached it differently, and there was quite a variety, a range of work. So I met the owner, or the exhibit head of that show, and I spoke with him and I showed him my work, and he invited me to participate the following year. So I made a little model, the committee approved it, and at that point we were going back to California. So I made all the glass in California. I arranged with someone to find me a fabricator in Italy because that's where the exhibit head was going to pick it up. And I found a great person, Signor Bresciani, and I made all the glass here in Monterey, and then carded it by myself in a heavy package on a special trip to take it to Italy. to go to work in Pietrasanta with Mr. Signor Bresciani. So we worked together. I had sent him plans and specifications. He had all the material on hand. And we worked together. We were supposed to complete the job in 2 weeks, which of course ended up taking 3. He did not speak English. I did not speak Italian.
You spoke art.
We spoke to art and drawings and gestures and
Pictures.
so and yeah, pictures, drawings. And then we had a friend who was bilingual. So if we got stuck, we could call on Steve and he would come and help us. So that became La Donna. She used to be called La Donna Splendente, but now she's called Woman Rising from the Sea. And there she is, like the
Beautiful.
So then, let's see, the next time we went to Italy, we rented a little house through a rental agent. And it turned out that the woman who owned the house was an artist herself. She belonged to an art organization, and they had organized to have a show at a civic building called the Limonaya with gorgeous grounds and beautiful gardens. And they invited me to participate in the show. And I met another wonderful fabricator who lived closer to Pisa. And I designed this piece, did the glass, and he and I built that piece together. And it's really one of my favorite pieces.
It's exquisite.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Although I love this one.
Yeah, this is I think a lot of people's favorite. So this is called Spring Finally, because when I was working on the piece, we were living in a small country house in a beautiful area, but the house was lovely, but it had no heat. It was so cold in there.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I'll get back. Keep going. Keep talking.
So it was, I made those flowers in this cold workroom with no heat all day. And I just kept thinking about, oh, I can't wait for spring to come. And wouldn't it be wonderful if when spring came or when winter is here, we could have the spring flowers and have them all year round. So that was kind of the inspiration.
I think it's my favorite. I don't know. I love the flowers.
Yeah, I love them too. So also in that show, I had some wall pieces, and it was kind of fun to have them leaning up against trees and leaning up against ancient walls. And that's a wall piece.
Lovely. There's my favorite flowers.
Yeah, more flowers.
A recurring theme.
So somewhere around this time, I was invited to be in a gallery in Lucca. They saw my work at that show at the Limonaya and invited me to show at that gallery, and other galleries began to come up. And I very luckily met a person with a gallery in Pietrasanta, which is really the main art city in that area. And he had a gallery right on the main gallery street and invited me to have a solo show there. So again, I made work to put in that show. It was really kind of wonderful too to have a whole lot of work, all of my work really, in one very white space. And the works kind of sang songs off of each other. It was wonderful to see them all together in the same space. So that's from that show. Well, that piece was made for that show in Pietrasanta. This one too this is called Homage to Miro. Miro is one of my favorite artists. Miro, Calder, Nikki de St. Paul. Those are people with a little sense of whimsy and the color and the abstract. And I do a lot of pieces with this abstract feel to them. That's one of my favorite ways to work. So that was also for the show in Pietrasanta.
Very joyous and colorful. And it sings. Art that sings is your motto.
Another one. Now, one day we went with some friends for another show at someone's villa, and in the villa they had peacocks, and that was sort of just made me
right.
Yeah, just peacocks again. Another one of your favorite things to look at because they're so gorgeous. So that's what inspired the piece.
Cypress trees in the back.
Exactly. Cypress trees and peacocks in Italy. What could be better?
Of course. Here's Tuscany.
Purely Tuscany. Yeah. Again, I've done a few Tuscan pieces because, again, it's so beautiful there.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And when we were back in California, I got some commission pieces. And that's another way I really like to work, when people ask me to do a commissioned piece. This one, I had a model of this piece made out of cardboard. I had already done the glass and had color Xeroxes of the glass, and I had made a standing model. Some friends saw the piece. They had a place in their home where they wanted a piece for that particular wall. And so I revised the piece, made it into a wall piece instead of a standing piece, and it still sits in their house on that wall to this day, and they love it, and I love it. So that was a really nice commission. I like to do commissions because it sparks my imagination in another direction when you have limited.
Sure. Yeah, you may have a challenge in a specific space, and you come up with the best possible artistic solution.
Exactly. So
with color.
I was in a show in Manhattan, in New York, and a couple saw the show and saw my work, and they were collectors of, they had work that was purely stainless steel, work that was purely glass. They had never had a combination. So they liked it. They asked me to design a piece for them. We worked long distance. I made the piece in California, shipped it to them, and they installed it in their beautiful home in New Jersey. That was another commissioned piece that I really like doing.
It almost looks like a clock to me, a little bit.
It's called Ascension because it's heading upwards, and it's placed above the staircase, actually, in their home, on the wall of the staircase.
Beautiful.
This one was another commission, sort of a commission, because I was in Italy. The piece was in a show. I got a phone call from an interior designer in North Carolina. She'd been looking for a piece of work for a home she was doing in Cayman Island, and she couldn't find anything. She finally saw my work. She said she loved my work, and then she was going to call me for a commission, but she saw this piece and decided it was perfect. So she waited until that show was finished. I hired a crate guy to build the crate. We crated it up, we packed it up, we took it to the FedEx and shipped it to her.
So you love working with interior designers and art consultants?
Yeah, exactly. I love working with interior designers, architects, art consultants. Again, usually there are parameters in those. Those are usually commissions, and so.
But you love those challenges, right?
I absolutely love them.
Okay.
I really do.
We're going to flip over to our second section of artwork that you were sweet enough to share with us. So we'll move on. Now it looks like a different.
Yeah, next step, we decided to spend some time in Mexico. And so we did spend a year there. I took my kiln with me, or I had my kiln shipped down with some of my work that I had here. And then I started to do work in Mexico, where I was totally inspired by the light, the sun, the sea. That's what this is about. And this is also one of my favorite pieces.
Gorgeous.
This is another, now in that area, I kept finding these gorgeous pieces of coral, and that's become the base of several of my pieces. And this one is particularly a good one. Again, it's about the sun and the sea and the air.
What's the red?
The sun.
The sun.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the sun last night, but it was quite that color.
You're right, with other wildfires, yes.
Yeah, it was really. The sunsets in La Paz are absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
Then I started to see the folk art of, I believe it's the Puebla people. That I don't know if you've ever seen the wonderful embroideries. That
yes.
They're just gorgeous in many, many colors. And this work is inspired by that. And I've done a lot of these folk art pieces, and I really like doing them.
So is that a butterfly, and is that a peacock, or?
It's a peacock and a butterfly, yes.
That's
what it is.
And beautiful colors.
I like his pride, the pride of the peacock.
That's right.
This is just a magical bird, taken strictly from that kind of folk art. The flowers are great, leaves are great. I just love the way that looks. I love it in drawing, I love it in the embroidery, and I love it in the glass.
Right. This is stunning.
We came back to California. I moved back to California about 2 years ago.
Is that the Monterey Bay?
Yeah, missed the Monterey Bay. It just felt like it would be, we reversed our plans. So now we travel to Italy and live in California again. And now I'm sort of featuring the glass more and more. I have found myself from the beginning featuring the glass more and more. And I'm now making a series of freestanding pieces. This was still combined with metal on that piece. And then you'll see the next ones are the freestanders. And I had two molds made for me with two curved patterns. So I cooked the glass first flat in the kiln, and then I put the mold in the kiln and put the glass on it. It's called slumping, so the glass forms to the shape of the kiln, and it'll show better on the next picture. Yeah, so this is now a series I've begun in,
Gorgeous.
yeah, the curved glass that's standalone. You don't need any metal. It can stand on the tabletop. It can stand on a pedestal. It can stand on the floor. Even in the garden, it's really very lovely. So that's what I'm doing right now, is a series of these until another commission comes along, and I'll be happy to do that.
So that's a flower. What other images am I seeing here? Flower.
It's really, that is a flower, but it's basically just shapes and things that form energy. Again, it has a sort of Miro feeling to it, and that's,
Yeah, it's a bright orange. I've seen it on your website, especially it's even more orange than
yeah, it's
appears on my monitor.
in person, I have to say, than they look in their pictures. Yeah. So this series is kind of about nature. There's
Gorgeous.
what they call ghost trees. Yeah, it's really, the fall is coming. The leaves are leaving the trees.
It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't know why, but I always see, well, I mean, your sculptures could be in any room, but I see the kitchen or the dining area, living room. I guess it could be in any room.
Also,
Maybe where there's a window. Do you think windows enhance it?
also
Light?
in commercial space, like office spaces and
Yeah. Lobbies?
lobbies, definitely. Yeah, any place where you want to add some energy and positivity. So the
Exactly.
meeting rooms, conference rooms, good to have a piece of art in the conference room that really makes people feel positive.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And our last piece.
Yeah, you can see the other curve. One is a single curve and one is a double curve. That's a double curve.
I recognize that bird.
In studying this, yeah, in looking into this, I discovered that daylilies are a good plant to plant if you want to have hummingbirds in your garden.
I didn't
Which
know that.
yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know it until I started looking it up.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to stop sharing the screen. I think that's our last one. There you
Yes.
are. And just to wrap up, what else would you like to tell our viewers?
Well, what I'd like to tell them is how to get in touch with me, I guess.
Yes.
So the website is www.jillcastyglassart.com, or you can just go to Jill Casty Art. It will come up. You can write to me at jillcastyglassart.com, and I would love to talk with anybody who's interested in doing a piece of work.
So if you have a project, you can start from the beginning, or they can buy something that's already produced. Last but not least, let's talk about the piece behind you. That's beautiful as well.
That's called Made Poppies, yes. There are a lot of wonderful colors in the glass, and that's why I like to work with it so much. I like the way it reflects the light. I like the colors that the glass is made in. It's just, there are some colors that aren't there that I would like to have there, but they're expensive to make, and so they haven't been made yet. But yeah, there's wonderful reds, wonderful oranges, wonderful yellows. And it's just absolutely fun to combine them as an artist and make them, as I say, art that sings.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And again, jillcastyart.com is the easiest. And I know that you would welcome any questions or commissions about your art. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.